So out of all the poems that we've read throughout the semester, the one that moved me and stuck with me most is On Heroes by Heberto Padilla. Um, yeah, here goes nothing. Heroes are always hoped for, waited for, because they move in secret and upset the order of things. One fine day they appear, exhausted and hoarse, riding a tank, dusty from the road, clattering with their boots. Heroes do not discuss, rather they lay excited. Plans for tomorrow's life. Heroes tell us what to do and appoint us, to the world's astonishment. They even hand to us their role as immortals. They wrestle with our solitude and our diatribes. In their way, they adjust the terror, and finally, they impose on us abounding hope. So, the reason why I really like this poem is because I feel like I could really connect with Padilla. I feel like who he's talking about here isn't, superheroes that you see in movies that have powers and can fly and shoot lasers out of their eyes. Rather, I feel like he's talking about and acknowledging, real life heroes, people that walk the same streets as us and lead day-to-day lives. So I thought that was extremely powerful because growing up, that's something my father always told me. Acknowledge real heroes. I remember watching movies with him that involved superheroes, and he'd just always say, you got to give recognition to those who are true heroes, and that's always stuck with me. So in this poem, I feel like Padilla is categorizing two different types of real-life heroes. The first being soldiers, and the second being parents or guardians, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But the literary devices that he uses to help make this poem so extremely powerful would have to be his diction, his word choice, imagery for sure, and also hyperboles. Well, a specific hyperbole, which he used to his advantage for sure. So the reason why I feel like he's talking about two different groups of people in these two separate stanzas is because of his diction, his word choice, how he's choosing to describe these certain groups of people. So, for example, I feel like in the first stanza is when he's recognizing soldiers, or honestly anyone that puts their life at risk to help day-to-day civilians. Specifically, I feel like he's talking about soldiers here, but so yeah, at the beginning of the first stanza, Padilla writes, heroes are always hoped for, waited for, because they move in secret and upset the order of things. That right there reeled me in automatically. The words hoped for, waited for, and move in secret in association with the word hero was particularly interesting to me because when one thinks of hero, they usually imagine what everyone else imagines: Superman, Iron Man, etc. But that's not the case in this poem. He uses those words to express the fact that people crave a savior, but they don't realize that savior. They walk among us every day. They risk their lives every single day in order to help us and save us and protect the people of their country. Us regular civilians don't really know what soldiers do. I mean, we know what they do, but not on a day-to-day basis, and we don't experience what they're experiencing. So those word choices led me to believe that it was about a soldier, or is about soldiers. Also, the word choices he uses to create a sense of imagery, specifically in this first stanza, also helped me connect it to soldiers. For example, he says, one fine day they appear, exhausted and hoarse, riding a tank, dusty from the road, clattering with their boots. So the image painted in my head automatically after reading those 5 lines was of a soldier coming back from extreme training, or maybe even war. So after a hard day of serving our country, I can only imagine that soldiers would be exhausted and filthy. And honestly, when he was saying clattering with their boots, I considered their dusty boots, or I pictured their dusty boots as a symbol of how they stood for our freedom and on the dusty road to return home. So he uses diction and imagery beautifully in that first stanza. And honestly, diction he uses beautifully as well in the second stanza. So the point in this poem where I feel like he is switching descriptions of people is when he is transitioning into talking about parents or guardians. I feel like starts at the point where he says, heroes tell us what to do and appoint us to the world's astonishment. They even hand to us their role as immortals. They wrestle with our solitude and our diatribes. In their way, they adjust the terror, and finally, they impose on us abounding hope. So, yeah. The reason why I felt like he was switching to a different type of person was automatically in that first line, heroes tell us what to do. When you're thinking of soldiers, you don't really think about them telling us what to do. So then I went on to the second line, and he says, and appoint us to the world's astonishment. That right there automatically, those 2 lines made me think of parents because, you know, parents are our heroes. They raise us. They honestly are our molds to become the people we are. And that includes telling us what to do. The second line saying, and appoint us to the world's astonishment, that drew the image in my mind, and it's basically saying that they're bringing us into the world and what the world has to offer, and that's what parents do. The 2 lines after that is when he uses the hyperbole. Now, he says, they even hand to us their role as immortals. Obviously, a parent can't hand their children their roles as immortals because immortality does not exist. So I believe he used the term immortals as a hyperbole. What I believe Padilla is stating, though, is what parents hand down to their children will eventually make them heroes once they have their own children. And because it's a cycle, these types of heroes will never die. So that was extremely powerful to me. Yeah, I overall feel like this was beautifully constructed, and I'd feel silly if someone doesn't really see my point of view. I know poetry, the point of it is, you know, to interpret it for your own sake, and that's just how I see it, and I believe that's how Padilla meant to portray it. And if not, I mean, I guess that's just my own interpretation, and I connected to it very well. So yeah, thank you for listening.